Hey, what's going on everyone? My name's Stranger and welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about music production and sound design. And in today's quick tip in sound design, we're going to be doing what I call the LFO bass. Sometimes I call it the bulb bass. I don't think there is an official name for it, but it's typically found in a lot of old school rave and techno songs, such as this song by LFO. And in today's video, we're going to be creating the sound with Massive X. Massive X just came with a new update, a few new tweaks to the user interface that makes it really nice to use. So we're going to be making this sound today in Massive X. So I have it up here. And the basics of this sound is created with a square wave. So the first oscillator is really all we need. This oscillator 1, and currently the wavetable that is selected is the sine, triangle, saw, and square. So we can simply drag this button until you see the square wave in the user interface here. And you can tell it's a square wave when it has that nasally sound. If you drag it over to the sawtooth, you get more of a sharper sound. And if you drag it over to the sine wave, then you get more of that hollow sound. So I'm going to drag this over to the square wave. There we go. Perfect. And the next step is to adjust the cutoff frequency. So we're just going to dial the frequency here. And we're getting already pretty close. The next step is then to apply the modulation envelope to the cutoff frequency. And this modulation envelope is actually modulator number 2. So we're going to click on the crosshair here for E2 and then click on the first button here for the cutoff frequency. So that now assigns envelope 2 to the cutoff frequency. And then we're going to click this little button and drag up to increase the amount of envelope 2. And we're getting close already. So the trick with the LFO bass is it's all about the decay knob. And you adjust according to taste. The decay is what gives that stabby kind of sound. If you remember in the previous video where we did the warp bass, it's the complete opposite. In the warp bass, we play with the attack. So that way you get the warp bass, but we're gonna drag the attack all the way to 0. So we're only relying on the decay. So adjust the decay accordingly. And then the next step is to adjust the resonance so that we get that more of that bulby kind of sound, that more hollow sound. There we go. So that's the basics of the sound. Now we're gonna add a pattern so we can listen to the sound and perhaps further tweak the sound. And I have a beat here. We're just gonna use the LFO bass pattern. Okay. And I'm gonna just drag all the way down until I found the right octave. There we go. And I'm gonna make this 2 bars. So with the LFO bass pattern, we simply mute these 2 notes here. And then we're gonna use legato. Legato simply extends each note so the ends of each note will meet the beginning of the next note. So if we click that, each note lengthens. Now we're gonna go back into Massive X and further tweak the sound. Now we can adjust the amplitude envelope to kind of make it more stabby, right? So we're going to adjust the sustain all the way down. The objective is to make this stabby like that, so it's not a note that plays indefinitely. There is actually a length to it. So we bring the sustain all the way down, and then we adjust the decay accordingly. And we can adjust the shape of this decay. Maybe we want it a little more convex or bulby. There we go. Definitely sounding more bulby. Okay, and then we're going to add some delay. And we're going to adjust the mix of it. We just want a subtle hint of delay. And I'm going to click on this little link icon that just joins the left and right. And feedback, we're going to dial back. We only want a few taps of that delay, so we're going to drag the feedback of that delay. And we're going to increase the colors. Dragging it to the right will remove some of the low frequencies, giving more focus on the mid and high frequencies on the delay. Okay. So that's the basics of the LFO stab bass or bold bass. From here you can add additional modulation and effects to make it sound more modern. We have the classic definition of the sound here. So why don't we try further manipulating this sound to get a more modernized version of the LFO bass. So one step we can take is to add some distortion. Now, before we add the effect, I'm just going to go into my routing, because by default you have you have effect A here. That's over here. This is where we're going to apply the distortion. I'm not just going to apply it just yet, but notice that the oscillator 1 is first sent to effect A, and then it's going to filter. So even if I add distortion here, you're not going to hear it because it's getting filtered here with the Asimov. So we just have to adjust the routing of the effects here. So I'm just going to double click this line, remove the routing here, and I'm going to just move the filter here and distortion here, so we have filter and then distortion. So I'm going to send oscillator to the filter, and then send the filter to the distortion, and then send distortion to the next effect here. Okay, so notice I already have the distortion affecting my sound. I'm just going to bring the drive back so you can hear it. There's a little FM knob. We won't go there just yet today. Adjust the delay accordingly. Now further to modernize the sound, we can add unison mode, which adds multiples of the same waveform. So currently it's at 3 voices. The more you increase the voice, the fatter the sound. The stereo width will determine how wide it spreads the 4 voices. And the spread here is the spread of the pitch. And so the it spreads out the pitch of each of the voices, so they're further apart. I think that's pretty good. Okay. So we're gonna adjust and play around and tweak the sound until we find something we like. I'm going to add a little break beat that I have playing over the drums. Alright, so there you have it. We now have a more modernized version of the LFO stab bass, and you guys now have the steps to create the classic LFO bass. Remember, you start with the square wave, apply the cutoff frequency, dial it back, apply the modulation envelope to the cutoff frequency, then adjust the decay of that envelope. And from there you can modernize the sound. You can add some distortions, some additional effects, go unison mode to really fatten that sound, and you're on your way to making a pretty crazy and futuristic bass sound. You probably have heard that more modernized LFO bass in a lot of future house and electro house. So I encourage you guys to try it out and create your own LFO bass, and let me know in the comments how you guys do. And also, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, make sure you like the video and also subscribe to my channel, and also let me know what you want to see in future videos. So until then, keep practicing, and we'll see you at the next video.